Hello and welcome back to the Student Hub Live OU Open Day. We are going to talk about access modules now. Now, I know some things about access modules, which is that students who have studied an access module tend to do much better than students who haven't. And to find out more about this fact and to what extent it's true, I'm going to talk to David Healy and Helen Cook.
Yes.
Thank you for coming along. You two have both been regular guests at our Student Hub Live events before. And we're here today to talk about access courses. Now, these are a range of courses that you're going to explain to us, aren't you? And we can talk about whether or not they're right for students. Students who've currently registered who are out there, should they be thinking about maybe whether they've done the right thing here? Is that what you're saying? Or is this really something for prospective students?
Well, I think by the time we get to the end of this little slot,
Yeah.
some people might think, hold on a minute, maybe I should do an access course first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity to be an undergraduate student right from the start.
Yeah.
Once on your first day.
Yeah.
That's the point of it, which I'm going to explain what that means in a minute.
Brilliant. And I was talking to Colin before about all the fees and things, and he tells me that some of these courses, if they're linked to a qualification, can be included.
Well, it's all on the website.
Yeah.
There's a brochure that people can get, so it's detailed. But the main bottom line is that yes, in England it costs £700. In Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland it's slightly cheaper.
Yeah.
But you can get it free. In England, if your household income is less than 25,000,
Yeah.
and that's true in Wales and
Yeah.
Northern Ireland. But in Scotland, it's if your personal income is less than 25,000.
Yeah, 'cause Scotland is slightly different.
and that's the thing I think students need to think about.
Yeah.
So for a lot of students, it's going to be a free
Yeah.
opportunity to get ready for undergraduate study.
And a massive opportunity, because this will effectively take you through a similar sort of length of time studying, and it gives you a chance to see if OU study is right for you without having the massive financial commitments.
In many ways, you're stealing my thunder now.
Oh,
because
sorry.
no,
I haven't even got that on my notes. I
that was
promise.
going to be our punchline. That actually, the first minute on the first day of being an undergraduate student, you know everything about the Open University, about the systems, about the material, the standard of the teaching material, about the relationship with a tutor, about how to use the forums, about how to talk to other students, about how to negotiate the internet, the student internet.
Oh, but
you know
don't
everything.
Make all our students who haven't done one of these jealous now.
Well,
President David, I wish I did one. I was on the first day. I thought I knew I had a start date, and I didn't look at anything beforehand because I thought I wasn't. So it just something happened. I didn't know what to do. So maybe doing an access for me would have been helpful.
One of the things we were going to do here, I was going to ask Helen. Helen was going to pretend to be a potential
Well, I don't have to completely
access
have
student.
ruined your show,
No,
Dave.
you haven't. You haven't. In fact, it's great because we've put the end right at the beginning, so it's exciting all the way through now.
Good
But-
to know we're live, isn't it?
One of the things that, if a conventional student goes to a conventional university, 18, 19, after a gap year, I was going to ask Helen and ask you, Karen, how long do you think it takes them to feel comfortable and settled at that university?
I think quite a while.
Quite a while.
Yeah.
I reckon at least 2 or 3 months before they even feel they're a kind of an undergraduate student and they got used to it. I think the same is true of being an OU student.
Yeah.
I mean, I was an OU student in the 70s and 80s, a very different university then.
Yeah.
It still took me, I reckon, a year before I felt settled. If you do an access course, my promise to the people out there is on day one, in the first minute, they will be an undergraduate student already. They will feel comfortable with everything, and that's why it's important to do an access course.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, do you want to tell us about the three then? Yeah.
Well, should we do this little
Let's
thing?
do the role play before I get
We steal any more
complaint
of our
letters.
thunder.
Okay, because we love acting here, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
Of course.
Go on.
But this is real though.
It's
It's being an
Caveat
access.
that I am no, Oscar-winning actress. But anyway. So, David,
Yes.
I've been advised to do an access course.
Yeah.
But why should I do one?
Well, okay, so it's clear to us after 4 or 5 years of access that students start their undergraduate degree much better prepared. A lot of students come in lacking confidence, lacking, say, self-esteem, lacking the necessary study skills because it's been a break for a while, from school or something. And that's the main thing the access program does. Yes, it teaches you material. Yes, we've got 3 subjects that I'm going to talk to you about in a minute. But the main thing is study skills. How to write an essay, how to plan an essay, how to talk to your tutor, how to learn in the best way possible for you. And at the end of it, okay, it doesn't count towards your degree. formally, but I would say it counts far more than that, because at the end of it, you're ready. As I say, on day one, you are an undergraduate student. Yeah.
So is it just one access module? You said there was a choice.
So there's three. You get wonderful material sent to you in the post. We have 3 courses. Y031 is the arts, and it's all about painting. They do the Turner Prize. They do poetry. They do World War I poetry. They also do a language as an option. You can do some beginners French and Spanish or other languages, and it's fantastic, course, really fantastic course. In the other one, Y032, that's more social science. So you've got things like psychology, sociology, management, law. You've got understanding children, and you've got health, all combined and all interlocking and interweaving to a fantastic course. So at the end of that, with the arts, you're ready to do any arts subject. With that one, you're ready to do any kind of social science subject. And the third one is, last but not least, Y033, which is all about science and technology and design and mathematics. Did I say that? Maths, science, technology and design. Fantastically important courses. And of course, then you're ready to do that pathway through the curriculum.
So I would just need to pick one of them before I
You
start.
should just do one, because, as I say, the most important thing are the study skills and the increase in your confidence, and then you're ready to be a student. Yeah.
So do I still get a tutor if I
Yes.
study an access module?
Very, very much so. In fact, I would say that with Access, you get more tutor support than you might well do once you start being an undergraduate. You have one-to-one tutorial support with a tutor by telephone and also online. And that tutor, within agreed times and so on, and certain boundaries, you can call that tutor, they can call you, and they talk you through the material, they talk you through your essays, they talk you through how to prepare an essay, and so on and so forth. So not only is the course material fantastic, but the tutorial support is, top drawer and very intense. Yeah.
And do I still get tutorials with other students?
No, you don't get classroom tutorials, but more and more we're offering online tutorials. So you're there with other students, with your tutor, learning together. Yeah.
And will I have to sit an exam?
Well, the good thing is, no, you don't. You don't have to do an exam. And in fact, there are at the moment, there are 3 essays. And each one is marked, but it doesn't count to whether you pass the Access course or not. What they're there for, you do get a mark, but the mark is to show you how you're doing. So this is what you would have got if it had been real, so to speak. But each essay is a stepping stone preparing you for what's called the end of module assessment, which is really slightly longer essay, but by that time you've got all the feedback from your tutor, both written and on the telephone, about how you're doing. And I can't remember the exact figure, it's in the 90s, very high. All those who sit the EMA, 95% or so, pass the EMA because they've got ready along the way. So if you failed Essay 1 or Essay 2, Essay 3, it doesn't matter. In fact, I would say the more you kind of maybe not do so well in these 3 essays, because they don't count, the better you are, because you learn more from the mistakes you make.
And what if I'm in that 5% that don't pass the EMA?
As long as you submit something, because sometimes, as we all know, life gets in the way. And we find with Access student, life with a capital L is getting in the way, right? But as long as they submit something, they can get a resit, and then they get reallocated to a tutor, and they get all the personal support again. So it's well worth remembering that if you do an Access course. There is never a moment along the course where you have to give up, because there's lots of support along the way. Yeah.
Okay, well I think I'm convinced. But what's the main benefit?
Well, the main thing is what we said at the beginning.
I want to know which one you're choosing, Helen, because I think they all sound really, really good.
I'd like to do a bit of all of them, but
Does it matter though?
No,
Like-
well, I don't think it really matters, but I think, yes, if you want to study history, you should do the arts one.
Yeah.
If you want to do chemistry,
Yeah.
you should do the science one.
Yeah.
But in fact, I think, because I haven't done the research, but I think there's evidence to suggest that some people change.
Yeah.
Certainly within Y032, which has got about 6 disciplines,
Yeah.
some people start off wanting to do, to eventually do the nursing degree,
Yeah.
or to do a psychology degree, end up doing a law degree,
Yeah.
and vice versa. In the arts, some people decide they're going to want to do art history, but they love languages so
Yeah.
much, in the small introduction that they start doing a language degree.
Yeah. Now, whilst these are amazing, for our students who've already enrolled for level 1 modules, because these are primarily aimed at students who maybe haven't studied much before, haven't got GCSEs or haven't been in study for a long time, so they are great. But if people haven't done this, it's not the end of the world if they're prepared to start now.
No.
Because there's loads of stuff that people can start doing before September.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's Open Learn, there's Future Learn, they can do all that. So I'm not trying to talk people out. Those people who have registered, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid to say that actually by doing this, you become, on that day one, as I said right at the beginning, you already are an undergraduate student, and you don't have the 4, 5, maybe 6 months of kind of quite difficult time negotiating everything. You've got it all on a plate. That's why really I think we should call these courses Off to a Flyer, you know. And I suggested that at a meeting and it didn't go down very well.
No.
But in many ways, that's what I think it is.
Well, I've heard people sort of who are studying with the OU, they're trying to sort of get their mum to do something, and maybe, you know, people are saying, well, I don't know, I couldn't study, I'm not sure if it's for me. And so a lot of OU students will say, well, why don't you do this? Because it's low risk, it's, you know, not going to rack up a massive debt or anything like that. You can often do it for free. And they're a great way to see if it's right, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And, you know, if people are now just saying, look, what's it take to do an OU degree? 6 years. What's another 6 months? You know, you could ring up registration and say, you know what, I've been so convinced by Helen and David's presentation that actually I want to do an access course. You know, because another 6 months is neither here or there. Because in fact, informally, I think you're gaining so much in terms of time that actually I reckon your degree will be much better at the end of it.
And like you say, you know the systems, I guess, so that you're having to focus on the content as opposed to...
Even sending in an essay in the OU systems for new students, there's a lot to learn. But you do all that in the access course.
Okay, great. All right, well, you've sold me.
Okay.
Which one are you going to do, Karen?
Oh, well, I'd have to do the work, arts, people, work and society. But to be completely honest, even if I was going to do this, I would probably do a quick STEM one, just because I think when else would I get up to brush up on my math skills?
That's true.
And so if I was doing something, I think there's an argument to say, let me do this because I'm never really going to have the luxury of doing it again.
Well, if you do it, get some potatoes in, because they do a live experiment with potatoes.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Don't ask me what.
Lovely. David and Helen, thank you very much.
you,
And David, you can go off and answer all your phone calls about your access module now. Helen, you need to stay because we're going to talk about choice and talking about an open qualification. But let's, in case you missed it before, we're just going to take another look at the tree sculptor video where Dan's going to fill us in on that, and then we'll be back with Helen to talk about could an open qualification be right for you? See you in a minute.